for spoilers, I am Adam. It is finally here. Something that I think had a longer time between announcement and release than The Flash currently has, although it will be close, because Disney acquired Star Wars in 2012. So this would have been around that time that this was announced, and, all of that, because they wanted to do this from the beginning, I think, was the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie at the time, around the same time that they had the Boba Fett movie from James Mangold and all of that. But, we are just now getting to the release of Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show on now Disney Plus, rather than theatrical movie. And, well, because The Flash was announced in this is probably longer. Oh, holy fuck, the stop sign here. This is probably longer, but I can't. Shut the fuck up, Progressive. But I'll have to look between announcement and release, which was longer. But I feel like it may be, what's it called? It may be, maybe The Flash. But either way, we're here to talk about Kenobi, not The Flash. And I think that I'm torn on this show. On the one hand, I there's a lot about this show that there is to like. I like the way that you have, what's it called? You have the exploration of other planets, the exploration of, other things going on. This feels more like a Filoni-style show than, did. Like, this feels like the Star Wars TV that I've watched with the Clone Wars and with, what's the other one? And with Rebels, and I didn't watch Resistance, but it feels more like that than it does The Mandalorian or, that other one, Book of Boba Fett especially. Where it's like, yeah, we're following one character, and this one character is the be-all and end-all of this story, but at the same time, we are, exploring other things. And there are other things going on in the universe that aren't directly related to this character. Like, with The Mandalorian, if I remember correctly from season 1 of The Mandalorian, we don't really deviate from whatever Mando's doing. We're following Mando. Here, we get other things, and we get stories of what's going on in, on Alderaan with the Organas and what's going on with Leia. We get stories of what's going on, with these other Jedi. What are the Inquisitors doing? And all of that. I do kind of like this kind of approach more so than what they were doing with Mandalorian. Because it is a wider world. It's not just this one guy. But then on the other hand, the entire first episode is devoted to getting Obi-Wan out of retirement, quote unquote, to get him to go to rescue Leia. Because in the first episode, Leia is kidnapped by pirates hired by Reva, the third sister, and that's something that kind of reminds me of Thrawn a little bit. That's a very Thrawn-like move to do. Hiring pirates to do your dirty work is something that we saw Thrawn do in Heir to the Empire and all of that. And I do really like, I like the way Reva's portrayed. It is one of those things where watching the episode as it came out, the day it came out, it's no fault of the show, it's more fault of mine and the world around us. But the show opens with Order 66, the Jedi Temple, because that's just kind of a thing that happens now with these shows, is that we're going to see Order 66 until the day we die, because that's, I think, one of the big failings of the prequels is, it is this big, wide-reaching kind of thing that happens across the entire, galaxy. but we don't really get the full scope of impact of what happened. And it is we are in the, in the Jedi Temple, and it is on Coruscant, and the stormtroopers come in, and a teacher gives her life trying to save the lives of a bunch of children. Now, I think one of these children, I'll have to watch the episode again to see if one of them, is going to end up being Reva. But that's kind of the thing. It's also been 10 years since, that's the big reveal in the episode, how long it's been since episode 3. It's been 10 years since episode 3. And then Obi-Wan, reveals himself in the episode to be alive and to be doing his thing by the end of the second episode, and Vader becomes aware of it too. There are 2 moments I did really like in the show, that are, small moments. Benny Safdie has a very small role. I like what he did, and I like him living up to the promise of the Jedi, and the fact that the Inquisitors are using that nature to track them down really should raise a few eyebrows about how true the propaganda is, about the Jedi. If they're going out there and they're hunting and they're hunting, and they're saying like, oh well, we know that they come out and we know that they by nature have to help. They will not just leave someone who needs help, and then and then he reveals himself to be a Jedi, Benny Safdie, and he does a great, and he's great, and then he has that moment with Obi-Wan, and he's like, Master Kenobi, I need, it's time to reestablish the Jedi Order, and he's like, I don't know, you have the wrong person, my name is Ben, and it's like, again, you would think he would have gone with a name that's a little bit more different from Obi-Wan, like going with Ben. It's like, and I wonder, like, the thing is too, that's even sillier, is that if this ends and the inevitable fight that's coming between Vader and Obi-Wan comes, and it doesn't end in a way where Vader presumes Obi-Wan dead, it raises quite a few eyebrows. If we get to the point in the sequels where in the original trilogy, where it's like he's just going by Ben Kenobi, and it's like, well, how many fucking Kenobis are there in the galaxy? Is it like Smith in the galaxy, or is it like is it like a more like a harder to track name, or like it just kind of seems weird. Now the 2 moments I did really like was, number 1, the moment of Uncle Owen and Obi-Wan having the conversation after Obi-Wan buys that toy for Luke. The toy that, if you watch the original Star Wars, is the one that, when he's sitting there talking to C-3PO in his house, he goes, he's like, if there's a bright, shiny point at the center of the galaxy, we're at the farthest point from it, or something. I don't remember the exact line of dialogue, but he's got that toy in his hand, and that is, that's the toy that Obi-Wan buys him. So that's a cool little nod for the origin of that toy. And then Owen brings the toy to him, and he's like, we don't want your involvement. And he's like, but when it comes time, I have to train him. And he's like you trained Anakin. And it's like, that's the thing that I think has been explored a little bit recently in the expanded universe that I do really like, is in the dark era, I think is what they call it, or the dark times, whatever the fuck they call it, before the rebellion really starts in full. The idea that, how does the galaxy at large view what happened in Episode 3? How does the galaxy at large view those events? And that's a really important question, because, the idea is the galaxy at large does not know that Vader is Anakin Skywalker. That's not common information to everyone. To everyone, Anakin died at the Jedi Temple. And from a certain point of view, according to Obi-Wan, that is accurate. But because Anakin died at the Jedi Temple, there is no, there was nothing. So when he brought Luke to them on Tatooine, he's like, well, he doesn't have any family. His mother died. His father died. He's got nothing. And then it also answers the question, and it also begs the question, too, at the end of episode 2. The moment when Reva is confronting Obi-Wan, and Reva knows that Vader is Anakin. So I think Reva had to have been at the Jedi Temple on the day that 66 happened, because Reva knows that Anakin is Vader. So, and the only people who would have known that were people who were at the temple who survived, and Yoda, and and Yoda and Obi-Wan. Beyond that, no one really knows. So, looking at it in that regard, and looking at it like, what's going on there, she gets this moment where she goes to, she's taunting him, and she's like, oh, Vader has been waiting for you for a long time, because she's trying to get into good graces with Vader. Son of a bitch, can you get out of the street? And she's like, Vader wants to kill you himself. And there's this look of realization on Obi-Wan's face as he's like, oh shit, Vader is still alive. Vader is Anakin. And that's going to be the big thing here. Is going to be, like, that moment, I think, kind of makes the first 2 episodes. The first episode, you can kind of, I kind of feel like could have been done a little bit cleaner. Now, do I think that, the show is going to really advance this in a way that, I think that ultimately what we're headed towards now is a fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan that is really kind of nitpicky in terms of what it can and can't do, because obviously neither of them can die. And there's another 9 years between this and the next time they fight, unless they fought again in between. And I think that would have been an interesting kind of thing to have happen. And obviously there was no fight between then and now. I also I'm curious about, what is Vader doing? What is the galaxy at large think of Vader? Does the galaxy at large know Vader exists? I mean, to an extent, Obi-Wan's been living on Tatooine. We don't know what that means for the galaxy. Like, does the galaxy know Vader exists? Because Vader is kind of the pit bull for the Emperor in more ways than one, because the entire series happens because Anakin's a fuck up and can't do anything right. He literally is a pit bull because, not only does he, he's a good attack dog, but he turns on his owner and kills them, and also mauls children. So it fits in more than one way. And I think that if we're going to look at how does that fit into the wider galaxy, because early in the episode they do say, like, oh, we're in the Outer Rim, we're out of the Empire's jurisdiction, which does kind of put into perspective everything that's going on in the High Republic. Like, oh, so 200 years ago you were trying to get them into that, and then, even with the consolidation of power under the Empire, they couldn't bring in the Outer Rim into reign. It is one of those weird things that they're not really, it's confusing, but at the same time, I don't know if it's a story group thing or if it's we're working on it, it's a work in progress, and things will be explained as we go further. But they are kind of pigeonholed in this fight that they need to have, because neither can die. It can't happen on Tatooine, because if it happens on Tatooine, then Vader knows where to go to get Obi-Wan. It's not like the Darkseid fight in, or it could very well be like the Darkseid fight in Justice League, where it's like, Darkseid comes to Earth and all of a sudden he forgets where the fuck it is for 30 years, for thousands of years. I think that would become a problem if Anakin forgot that Tatooine existed, especially considering in the Afra comic that takes place, it's Afra and Vader, they both kind of dovetail together, that take place between 4 and 5, he discovers where Obi-Wan was living on Tatooine, and he goes there because that's when Vader starts to figure out what happened, and what he was hiding on Tatooine, and I think that this does create that a little bit further. It furthers that whole thing where it's like, Vader's starting to figure out that this show is going to be him beginning to figure out there's a plot to undo the Empire. The other thing I really want to see them address is why Luke and Leia. And more specifically, why Luke and Leia, and then what was the plan to train Leia? Or was the plan only to train Luke? Because that's something else that we have, where it's like, you don't know if Luke will have the same chosen one status, to be able to unseat Vader. It's a weird situation because it's never really explained that happened, unless it's like, unless Obi-Wan by the end of this show goes full commitment and is like, oh, so the prophecy that Qui-Gon had, it was meant to be Luke. It's kind of a weird situation all around. So far I'm liking the show. Hopefully in further episodes they go a little bit deeper into it to explain it a little bit better. But as of right now, it's creating just enough questions to keep you interested past this. It may even make me watch the episodes again. And as always, you can find Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney+, and it comes out every Friday. So our next episode is going to be Bob's Burgers tomorrow. I was going to do it today, but I was busy. So Bob's Burgers tomorrow, and then Time Traveler's Wife on Monday, and then we will see from there. So until then, have a great rest of your week.